When Keanu Reeves showed true kindness off camera, lights had just gone down on a movie set in downtown Los Angeles. Cameras were being packed away, assistants were rushing to wrap up the day, and actors were stepping into their cars to leave. For many, the set was simply a workplace. But for Keanu Reeves, that night would become something more. Something that would reveal the quiet heart behind the world's most admired star. The story began with a small accident. A young worker on the crew, no older than 20, tripped while carrying heavy equipment. The crash echoed across the set, and everyone turned their heads for a moment. Most people went back to their own tasks, too tired to notice, but Keanu walked toward him slowly, his black jacket moving with the cold night air. He bent down and asked in a soft voice, "Are you all right?" His tone was not rushed, not casual, but filled with real concern. The boy, embarrassed and shaken, tried to smile and said he was fine, but his hands trembled as he tried to lift the broken equipment. The truth was, he wasn't fine at all. This was the moment when the story of kindness began. Keanu did not just leave it there. He picked up the heavy box himself, his face calm, his eyes steady. The other crew members stopped for a moment, surprised, to see the main star, the man who had been the focus of the cameras all day, kneeling on the cold ground and lifting what others had ignored. Some whispered in the background, "Why is he doing that? Actors don't do this kind of thing." But that was exactly the point. Keanu wasn't just an actor here. It was a man showing that no role, no position, no title was too high to show respect for another person. As he helped, the boy's eyes filled with tears he was trying to hide. He had been struggling not only with the job but with life outside the set. Rent was overdue, family troubles weighed on him, and every day felt like a battle. In that single act, he felt something rare. Someone had truly seen him. Later that night, when most had left, Keanu stayed behind with the boy. They sat on the curb near the parking lot, the glow of the streetlight falling gently on their faces. Keanu asked him about his family, about his dreams, and listened with the same patience he gave when acting in front of a camera. The boy shared how he wanted to study film but had no money. He worked long hours on sets, not for passion but survival, and while speaking, his voice broke. It wasn't just about film. It was about a young man feeling invisible in a world that only cared about stars. Keanu did not interrupt. He simply listened, his hands folded, his eyes carrying that strange mixture of sadness and hope that people often spoke about when they described him. When the boy finished, Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You are not invisible. Your story matters." Those words hit deeper than anything. They were not dramatic. They were not rehearsed. They were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. For the boy, it felt like someone had pulled him back from the edge. In the days that followed, Keanu quietly made sure the boy was supported. He did not announce it, he did not tell the media, but crew members noticed small changes. The boy was given lighter shifts, someone helped him with his rent, and a chance came for him to sit in during the editing sessions, something interns never got to do. Whispers spread, but no one could say for sure how it happened. Only the boy knew that behind it was the quiet kindness of Keanu Reeves. And yet, this was only the beginning, because soon, another challenge would rise, one that would test not just Keanu's kindness, but his resilience, his humility, and the strength of his heart. The world would see what happens when kindness is not just a single act, but a way of living, even when faced with betrayal, loss, and misunderstanding. The shadow of doubts. Next morning on set, the crew buzzed with quiet talk about what had happened. Some admired Keanu for helping, others rolled their eyes, whispering that it was just a show for attention. In the world of Hollywood, people were quick to doubt kindness. They wondered, is it real, or is it another performance? The boy, still overwhelmed by Keanu's support, heard some of those whispers. He felt torn between gratitude and shame. He feared people would think he was weak, that he had only received help because of pity. But deep down, he knew Keanu's gesture came from a place beyond pity. It came from respect. That day, while cameras rolled, a mistake happened. The boy, still shaky, dropped a light during a take. It made a loud crash, and filming stopped. The director's voice exploded across the set, sharp and cold. "Who let this happen? Do you realize the time you just wasted?" The crew stared. The boy's face turned pale. His hands shook as he tried to fix the mess. He was ready for the humiliation to crush him. But before the director's anger grew harsher, Keanu calmly walked forward. He looked at the director and said softly, "It was not his fault. Accidents happen. We can redo the take." His voice was low, but it carried weight. Silence filled the space. Everyone knew directors held power, but Keanu's words carried something stronger, quiet authority built on respect. The director sighed and stepped back, unwilling to argue in front of the crew. The boy, holding back tears, looked at Keanu. In that moment, he realized something important. Keanu did not just show kindness when no one was watching. He showed it even when it could cost him reputation or time. Still, not everyone was pleased. Later, in a corner of the set, two senior crew members whispered, "He's interfering too much," one said. "Actors are not supposed to step into our work. Maybe he's trying to play hero." Those words soon reached the boy. He felt guilty, like his presence was creating problems. but Keanu seemed untouched by gossip. Instead, he treated everyone with the same quiet humility, offering small gestures, holding the door for a tired worker, sharing his own lunch with an assistant, greeting the janitor with the same respect he gave the producer. The more he acted this way, the more tension grew among a few jealous crew members. They began to think, if he keeps doing this, he will make the rest of us look cold. And so, a shadow of doubt spread across the set. Whispers turned into rumors, and some people started questioning not just the boy, but Keanu himself. One evening after shooting wrapped, the boy walked outside to find Keanu sitting alone on the steps, looking at the sky. He sat beside him, nervous. "Why do you do this?" the boy asked quietly. "People don't always see it the way you mean it. Some think you're pretending." Keanu's eyes stayed on the fading sunset as he answered, "It doesn't matter what they think. What matters is how you treat people when no one is keeping score. Kindness is not a performance, it's who you choose to be, every single day." Those words sank into the boy's heart like an anchor. He realized that true kindness will always face doubt, but it remains pure when it is not seeking applause. Yet this was only the calm before a storm, because in the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened, something that would test both Keanu and the boy in ways neither of them could imagine. The betrayal days passed, and the set seemed normal on the surface. Cameras rolled, actors performed, and the crew worked through long hours. But beneath it, tension was building. The boy felt at most whispers that he didn't belong, that he was slowing everyone down, that he only survived because Keanu was protecting him. One evening, while he was packing cables, he overheard two crew members speaking harshly. "He should be gone by now," one said. "He makes mistakes, and the only reason he still has this job is because Keanu keeps covering for him." The boy froze. His heart sank. Later that week, something more painful happened. A piece of expensive equipment went missing from the storage room. It was rare for such a thing to happen. The value was high, and the production team was furious. Meetings were called, voices were raised, and suspicion spread quickly. Then someone whispered the boy's name. It started small, just one person hinting, "He was near the storage room last night." Then another voice added, "He's desperate for money. Maybe he took it." Within hours, the quiet rumor became a sharp accusation. The boy tried to defend himself. "I didn't do it. I swear I didn't," but no one listened. The more he spoke, the guiltier he looked in their eyes. The director, already frustrated with him from earlier mistakes, pulled him aside and said coldly, "We can't afford thieves here. If this is true, you're done." The boy's world crashed. He knew he hadn't taken anything, but in that moment, truth didn't matter. Suspicion was heavier than facts. That evening, Keanu found him sitting alone by the back of the studio, his face pale, his hands gripping his knees. The boy whispered, "They think I stole it. They're going to fire me." His voice broke. "Keanu, I didn't do it, but no one believes me." Keanu looked at him, his eyes calm, yet filled with quiet fire. "I believe you," he said. The boy's breath caught. It was the first time all day anyone had said those words to him. Keanu didn't stop there. He began to ask questions, speaking to crew members, looking at security logs, walking into places most actors never bothered with. Some frowned, thinking he was meddling too much. Others watched silently, curious. Then came the twist. Late at night, one of the junior assistants confessed quietly to Keanu. The missing equipment hadn't been stolen, it had been misplaced by mistake. The assistant had left it in a van that drove to another location, too scared to admit it when people started shouting. Keanu could have exposed him immediately, clearing the boy's name in front of everyone, but instead, he did something different. He asked the assistant to tell the truth himself. "Owning your mistake will free not just him, but you too," Keanu said. The next day, the assistant gathered the crew and admitted what had happened. Silence filled the room as the truth spread. Eyes turned to the boy, many of them filled with shame for doubting him. The director muttered an apology, though his tone was still hard. Others looked away, embarrassed. But the boy didn't care about them anymore. He only looked at Keanu, whose steady presence had been the one light in the storm. For the first time, the boy felt a spark inside him, something stronger than gratitude. It was trust. And with that trust came courage. But this was not the end. Because while the boy was cleared, the whispers did not stop. Some people now felt threatened by Keanu's influence. And soon, a bigger challenge would rise, one that would not only test Keanu's kindness, but would push it into the public eye where the whole world could judge. Under the spotlight, Set seemed calm after the truth about the missing equipment came out. The boy returned to his work, quieter but stronger. Keanu continued to treat everyone with the same humility, offering a smile here, a helping hand there. Yet beneath the calm there was a new tension. A few crew members, the ones who had doubted the boy and spread whispers, felt exposed. Their pride was hurt. They began to see Keanu not as a friend, but as a threat. His kindness, instead of softening them, made them feel small. And so, they waited for a chance to strike back. That chance came one afternoon, when paparazzi cameras surrounded the set. It was supposed to be a normal day, but a small argument near the gates changed everything. The boy had been stopped by a guard who didn't recognize him. The guard, frustrated by the chaos of reporters, raised his voice. You don't belong here. Step back. The boy tried to explain, but the exchange grew louder. A group of paparazzi noticed and rushed closer with their cameras. Flashes went off like lightning dot from a distance. Keanu saw it happen. He walked calmly toward the gate, placing himself between the guard and the boy. He belongs here, Keanu said firmly. His voice carried no anger, only steady truth. But the cameras had already captured the moment. The angles were twisted, the shouts were frozen into images that told the wrong story. By evening, headlines appeared online. Keanu Reeves argues with staff on set. The photos showed only fragments, making it look like he was losing his temper. Internet buzzed. Some defended him, others mocked. People who didn't know the truth began to question his image. The crew whispered again, "This is trouble. He's bringing bad press." The boy felt crushed. It was his mistake that had led to the misunderstanding. "This is my fault," he whispered to Keanu. "Because of me? Now they're blaming you." Keanu shook his head slowly. Never blame yourself for someone else's story. The truth is stronger than rumors. Still, the pressure grew. The producers called a meeting. They spoke to Keanu about protecting the film's image. They asked him to step back, to let things go, to stop involving himself in matters outside his role. Most actors would have agreed, protecting their career. But Keanu simply said, "If standing by someone in need costs me, then it's a price I will accept." The boy's eyes filled with tears when he heard that. He had never seen someone so ready to risk reputation for the sake of kindness. But the battle wasn't over. The paparazzi returned the next day, shouting questions, twisting stories, and in the middle of it all, a bigger test was waiting, one that would not just question Keanu's kindness, but try to break it, because behind those flashing cameras, one voice was preparing to speak against him, and this time, it would not be a whisper. It would be a public betrayal. The breaking point storm arrived faster than anyone expected. A week after the paparazzi incident, a popular gossip site released an article that spread like fire. The headline read, "Crew member claims Keanu Reeves is difficult behind the scenes." The article quoted someone from inside the set. It painted Keanu as controlling, interfering in crew matters, and creating delays. It even suggested that his so-called kindness was only for the cameras, a way to protect his image. The crew froze when they saw it. Some gasped, some smirked, and others shook their heads in silence. The boy, who had grown to trust Keanu with all his heart, felt sick reading the words. He knew they weren't true. He had lived the opposite of those lies. But the article was loud, and truth was quiet. Rumors spread again, this time sharper than before. "Maybe he is pretending," someone whispered. "Maybe this is who he really is." The producers panicked. They worried about investors, about the film's image. Meetings grew tense, voices rose, and once again, Keanu stood at the center of a storm he hadn't created. Then came the deepest cut. The crew discovered who had spoken to the press. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an outsider. It was one of their own, a senior crew member who had felt overshadowed by Keanu's quiet influence. Jealousy had turned into betrayal. The boy couldn't believe it. He asked Keanu, "Aren't you angry? They lied about you, and now the world believes it." Keanu's answer was slow, almost gentle. "Anger is easy, forgiveness is harder. But if I let bitterness control me, then their lie wins." Still, the pressure was heavy. Paparazzi chased him. Headlines twisted his silence, and the betrayal hung like a shadow. The boy watched as even some who once admired Keanu began to step back, afraid to be associated with him. One evening, after a long day of shooting, the boy found Keanu sitting alone again, the same way he had on that first night. This time, though, he looked tired, not in his body, but in his spirit. His shoulders carried a quiet weight, as if the world's doubt had finally reached him. The boy sat beside him and whispered, "You don't deserve this. You've been nothing but kind. Why does the world treat you this way?" Keanu looked at him, his eyes soft but firm, because kindness is not always understood. Sometimes it is seen as weakness, sometimes as a mask, but kindness is not for applause. It's a choice you keep making, even when it costs you. The boy's chest tightened. He realized something. Keanu was teaching him not just through words, but through the way he lived. The next morning, the boy made a decision. He would not stay silent anymore. He would tell the truth about what he had seen, about the night Keanu lifted the equipment, about how he defended him, about how he listened and gave respect when no one else cared. But he also knew that standing up for Keanu would put him at risk. People might laugh at him, or dismiss his words. Still, he felt he owed it to the man who had saved him from invisibility. Yet before he could act, fate delivered another twist. A leaked video from the set began spreading online, and what it showed was not lies, but the raw truth. Keanu kneeling on the ground, helping the boy that first night. The world that doubted him was about to see a side of Keanu they never expected. The truth revealed video spread like a spark in dry grass. Within hours, it was on every major site, every social platform. Millions watched as the grainy footage showed Keanu Reeves, the world-famous actor, kneeling on a cold set floor, helping a struggling crew boy lift heavy equipment. There were no cameras staged for promotion, no reporters to impress, just a quiet moment of kindness. The contrast was clear. The article had painted him as fake, but the video showed something real, something raw. Comments poured in. This is the man we always believed him to be. Kindness doesn't need a spotlight, it shines on its own. How many celebrities would stop everything just to help like that? The boy watched the video with tears streaming down his face. The world was finally seeing the man he had seen all along. But more than that, they were seeing the truth of kindness, that it doesn't belong to rumors. It doesn't belong to betrayal. It belongs to actions that can't be denied. The gossip sites tried to twist the story again, but this time, the tide was too strong. People around the world defended Keanu, sharing stories of their own encounters with him, moments where he signed an autograph patiently, gave up his seat on a train, or spoke to someone as if they were the only person in the room. The crew felt the shift. Those who had doubted, those who had whispered, now looked at Keanu with shame in their eyes. The senior crew member who had betrayed him stood in silence, unable to meet his gaze. But Keanu, true to his nature, did not demand apology, did not seek revenge. Instead, he greeted them with the same soft smile, as if nothing had changed. The boy, however, could not stay silent any longer. He asked the producers for a chance to speak at the closing of the shoot. They hesitated, but finally agreed. But when the crew gathered that evening, the boy stepped forward. His voice shook at first, but then grew stronger. When I came here, I thought I was invisible. I was just a worker, carrying things no one noticed. But one man saw me. When I fell, he lifted me. When I was blamed, he defended me. When I doubted myself, he reminded me that I mattered. That man is Keanu Reeves. The room was silent. Many lowered their eyes. The boy continued, "You may see a superstar, but I saw something greater, a human being who showed me what respect and kindness really mean. And if the world knows the truth now, it is because truth cannot be hidden. It will always find a way." Keanu stood quietly in the back, his expression humble, almost shy. He didn't step forward to take credit. Instead, he simply nodded, as if to say, "It was never about me. It was about us." That night, the boy walked home with a lighter heart. He realized something powerful. Kindness had not just saved him, it had transformed him. He no longer felt invisible. He had found his voice, his courage, and his worth. The world outside continued its noise, headlines, debates, and opinions. But within that small circle of people who had lived the truth, a lesson had settled deep. Kindness may be doubted, kindness may be mocked, but in the end, it always stands stronger than lies. And for Keanu Reeves, the man behind the camera, it was never about proving anything. It was simply about choosing, again and again, to live with humility, respect, resilience, and love.